I started my career late in life. I graduated in '72 when it all started. Girls weren't supposed to go into sports at that time. I was supposed to go to nursing school. That's what I was supposed to do. So let's fast forward. I got into coaching in '82. And because of Title IX, I had an opportunity to coach and make $5,000, which was awesome at the time. Graduated in '85 from The Ohio State University and was able to go to Ball State University because the opportunity arose for, women's basketball could hire an assistant. And I got to go there for $12,000, which was okay. I'm a happy camper. The whole point is the opportunities arose for women in coaching. And that's how I started. I mean, when I was in high school, there weren't any scholarships. I went to a parochial school where the only sport we had for girls was basketball. And at that time, for 2 years, I played with 6, 3-on-3. And we wore our PE onesies. But anyway, the opportunity became so that I could coach at the collegiate level, which is something I had always wanted to do, but never thought I would have the opportunity to do. And I did. And Title IX helped me with that because of the opportunity it gave me to get into basketball and softball. I mean, I started as a softball coach. Oh yeah, and then I got really smart, Margo. It's like I'm not spending my time out there in Michigan in April coaching softball and freezing my tail off on third base. Yeah, so then I got soft, and I say this, I got soft, and I went in the gym.
I came to Central in 1972, the year Title IX passed. I really wasn't that aware of it, but Fran Koenig, who we all know, was my boss who hired me. Whatever Fran said, I did, because she was on the AIAW, which was like the NCAA for women back then. And she said, this is what you have to do. So I always listened to Fran, and Fran just said, you need to get involved. And I did. I went to school in the 60s. I mean, and I went to a Catholic university, but they had sports for girls when a lot of places did not. So I got a chance to play collegiate sports in the 60s. We'd play Ohio State one day and Wittenberg, a Division III school, the next day. But that's just the way it was. And so I had good mentors early on before I came to Central. And then Fran Koenig was my ultimate mentor. She wasn't a dominating person, but she made sure everybody was involved because she was involved. And I just, went with the flow. And then as I matured and then went into administration, I basically just used her as a guide. And steady pressure was always Fran's rule. Don't come in with a hammer when a little slingshot will work. And so that was always my philosophy. So, smile while you tell people to get it together. Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate to have great mentors, and I listened.
I was a freshman in high school in 1972. And before that...
she's a baby.
Before that,
baby
I went to Catholic school. And if not for Title IX, I probably would have just been a professional dodgeball player because that's what you did in Catholic school. And I didn't know there was any other sports, but I was fortunate that I went to, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went, very sports-minded town. I went to a high school that had great opportunities so that, I was able to play field hockey, volleyball, basketball, run track. I did play a little softball. And so I think that for me was the start of that I could play these sports. And I actually got offered a scholarship, a $300 scholarship. I don't think you guys know this.
Nice.
$300 scholarship to go play field hockey and basketball at Ohio University.
Oh.
And I turned it down. so that I could go to Ohio State, where I played field hockey there. But, again, we have to realize, and again, that nowadays they'd be $300. That's just, but again, that was like an honor, even though I turned it down at the time. But, the ability to have those experiences and then be coached, the coaches that I had in high school, female coaches that I had in high school, and the coach that I had at Ohio State, that's what spurred me on to then, okay, now, I can actually be a coach. And to have those opportunities, I think really started my career.
72, I graduated from high school. And
Yay.
actually, I played basketball and softball and was on the bowling team and did a little bit of the track stuff, certainly not the running part, but whatever. And so I played then, and I had a great high school coach who was very much in my corner type thing. So my mother died when I was really young, so a lot of people just kind of took over and helped me out. I mean, it was amazing how much help I got from coaches, especially. And then when I went to college, and actually I went to Grand Valley to become a nurse. I did not plan
We both started softball and nursing.
Yeah. I did not plan to coach. I had no idea that I was going to coach, none at all. And then I didn't get. Then I decided I wasn't going to go into nursing because I didn't get in the classes I needed to get in right away. So I was going to go into teaching. So I did that. Well, and then I didn't get a job immediately because at that time it was overflooded with teachers, and I wanted to stay near home to help with a farm because I grew up on a farm and helped my dad with a farm situation. So I wanted to stay somewhat closer. And then I got a graduate assistantship here at Central Michigan, and I was head softball coach and the assistant volleyball at that point in time. So I was Marcy's assistant, and I was a head softball coach. So I was very fortunate where it came along. But I think one of the big issues is it was the women like the Fran Koenigs, like the Christine Grants, like those people that came before us that really pushed for us, because if it hadn't been pushing for the sports, and we need to remember those names always, and we need to continue to talk about those names because they were the big names that did so much nationally. Fran did so much nationally. My college coach, who became the AD at Grand Valley, Joan Bond, who recently died, said to me, "You've got to go to Central if you get that chance because Fran's there." And I'm like, "Who's that?" She goes, "You'll know who Fran is." And we are lucky in the state of Michigan to have her because she's such a huge part. So to me, I felt very fortunate to be able to have Fran as a boss. And Fran she was always, I had your back. She always had your back because some situations came up early in my career and she was right there to help me out. We were going to the World Series, and I was in Ted Cohey's office, who was the AD that time. Fran was with me, and we were talking about budget, how much you're going to have to spend. And Ted said, "All right, you're going to have one minivan, and you're going to go to the airport, bring the players from the airport to the hotel, go back, get the next group, go back, get the next group, go back, get the next group." And then I'm like, "What? And then what about the field, to the field?" And I was getting pretty upset. I was young and upset. And Fran goes, "Margo, be quiet. Go to your office." I'm like, "What?" "Go to your office." I'm like, "Okay." 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, she goes, "Okay, now you've got everything you need. You'll have enough vehicles to drive this. You'll have enough vehicles for this. You'll have enough money for food for this, this, and this. It won't be extravagant, but you'll have enough. Just want you to know, just relax. I got you covered." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." That's what I'm talking about when she had your back. I felt very fortunate of that. And certainly the law coming into effect, that's really great. But it was the women before that caused that law to come into effect that I think is the amazing thing, because the law has been in effect for how many years now? 50? 50? Mm-hmm. Is it still is it totally being abided by? Not exactly. So, the law's great, and that did a lot. It helped a lot of opportunities for girls, especially younger in sports, et cetera. But I think I give more credit to the women who pushed before that. Christine Grant was someone that was one of the people that started the AIW, which was before the NCAA, which was the governing body. And she did such a great job. And there's a lot out there on the internet if you want to look to find out more about the history of Title IX and the history of AIW. And now she and Mary Bottero were friends to a point because they both were field hockey people. And so when Mary did, their teams finished so high in the country, that was very positive for, okay, if they can do that, maybe we can do that in softball. And then also it became, because Marcy did a lot of officiating in basketball nationally, and Mary did some nationally, but also did international and field hockey. So, you got that international flair, and you could do that type thing. So, to me, part of it was we were friends, yes, but also you would see the issue that you can do that stuff. You can do international things. You can do national things, and from Central Michigan. So it's like, oh, we can do that from Central Michigan. So, it's so important who your role models are. And that's what I think is really important for the coaches at Central Michigan today. A lot of them don't have a lot of years of experience, that they have someone that they can go to get some help with different things, to get to talk about stuff. And not just Central Michigan, everywhere. I think we just need people.
Because of Fran, I had Marcy Weston, who got it, who understood. And because of Marcy Weston, I got Cristy Freese. And they were both my bosses, if you will. And I think it helped because they were both coaches. So whatever Fran put down in Marcy's brain, because Marcy said she did whatever Fran did, and Cristy watched Marcy for a long time before she joined the dark side. And all I know is, now, for me, having these two in my corner administratively, Margo just talked about having your back, in tough situations. They always had my back, and they always. I would push for a few things, and Marcy was famous for having plan B, C, and D. And usually I would have to go to plan D. But it was okay, and I teased Cristy about going the dark side because she was my golfing partner. And you always wonder how things are going to change, and they didn't. And I will tell you, I used to talk to Cristy before I went and talked to Marcy, and then I used to go in and talk to Margo before I talked to Cristy. So I think the influence that Fran had and all those three certainly helped me in my career here at Central.
I want to talk a little bit about Mary Bottero, because the reason that I am at CMU was when I was playing at Ohio State, Central Michigan University was #1 in the region, and Ohio State was #2 at the time. And so we competed against Central Michigan, and they were good. And so when this opportunity came up for the job to coach field hockey here, the only reason was that I knew that they had very good field hockey. So it was, I look back at Mary and say that what she developed here at CMU was how it brought me here. And then, with Fran, again, I was here at the tail end of her career. One of my little favorite stories about Fran, was that I remember Fran had a way of bringing the department together, don't you think?
Totally.
And as women can do. And so you're doing more than just your job. You're sort of like the social director at times. And so I remember I was getting ready to go to practice, and Fran had ice cream out in the mailroom, and she's like, "Do you want an ice cream cone?" And I'm like, "What? I'm going to practice. I can't eat an ice cream cone when I go to practice." But Fran, her ability within the department to make everyone feel a part of it, I think, was exceptional. And both of these women were such strong role models for women. And that's, I think, the biggest key. That's why it is so important to have women in these leadership positions. And I know all of us had that in our life to help us.
More men are into administration of athletics and women's athletics because we're a hot commodity now. Women's sports, we're certainly not the same as the men, but I mean, when you look at all the top teams in the country, I mean, a lot of them have men that support them, but that's because they're better now. They're more visible now. I think back in the day, it's like, you have women's sports, really, to a guy? I mean, I don't know if it was as valued as it is now. The women valued it. The women made us better. Fran made all of us better because we all knew Fran. Sue didn't have her as an administrator, but she knew of her. And I think that, I mean, we've earned our stripes. You know, we've shown we are good at what we do. And it is, a lot of our young women that come into sports today are coached by men. Especially in the basketballs and the volleyballs and the softballs. I think we have still more women in field hockey.
There is, yeah.
Fortunately, probably because they don't know enough about it to be able to do it, or they would, because
well, it's primarily a female sport.
It is a female sport
in the U.S.
In the U.S. Nationally, it's
right. Internationally.
Internationally, men play.
But I think, I think the biggest thing all of us would agree is that, it is so important for women and girls to have female role models. And it would be interesting, certainly I'm sure there's been discussion on it, but, there needs to be more women in coaching. But why is that? Why aren't there? And, I think that it part of it was that as the money came into it, more men were interested in these positions and they were being hired by men. And there's a lot of great, incredibly great female coaches out there and young women that can do this too. But they need also the support, because I think that's the way that they're going to be able to do a job, especially at the collegiate level.
Having women in positions is helpful, because women see women in those positions and they know that they can do that. And we have, we've been fortunate. I mean, before Amy was Dave Hickey. Was that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, Alford, sorry, I missed Alford. He was kind of a short timer here. He was a few years. No, but he was. But and I didn't work for Michael, but Michael would call and ask my opinion on things, which I respected because I've been gone a while. Hickey before that, his wife was a very strong advocate, and he had all boys, but he supported women. And I think the leadership piece is critical. And you can't ask those questions when you hire people. Of course, they're going to say they're going to support women, but put their money where their mouth, or put your mouth where your money is, money where your mouth is, whatever. You got to make it work. And Alfred was good. He had a strong wife who was very supportive of women. And I think women have to take charge in a subtle way. I keep moving forward and make sure you voice your opinion to the guys.
Well, I think, I look at the strong women that have coached here, and again, led by Fran and the people that were here, but we brought in people that were strong advocates for women and their teams. This wasn't easy. I remember when we wanted, field hockey, the sport of field hockey used to be a grass game, but it switched to AstroTurf. And so, yes, we needed an AstroTurf field. And we started playing in the stadium, but nobody came to me and said, hey, do you want to start playing in the stadium? I went to them and said, hey, I can get Ohio State to come here. I can get Michigan to come here, but we need to play on turf because that's what they play on. But I think that the biggest thing is that you have people that are going to push and fight for things that they're willing to do that. And that strong leadership, strong female leadership, hiring strong women is really, really important. One of the things I learned when I was on the dark side, as Sue likes to say, when I was administrator, as you're hiring coaches, so I would say the same thing, whether we're talking about Amy as an athletic director, is that, it's always interesting when we hire a new football coach or a new men's basketball coach, everybody is like, and I say everybody in athletics, like, how can we support him? What do we need? What do you need? What do you need? And that doesn't happen when you're hiring other coaches. And so I think one of the things I learned as we were hiring someone and we had a choice of a male coach and a female coach, and we ended up hiring the woman. But what I realized is like what the support would have been if we had hired the man is different than what she needs. And we have to understand that. But again, it goes back to, I think I as a woman understood that it was going to be different. And I think that's, again, the thing that's why you need whatever diversity in the type of people that you're bringing in to help support, because what this coach needed wasn't necessarily the same thing that the guy would have needed. And I think that's important. So how do we support Amy and how do we support our female leaders here? Well, let's ask some women and let's ask them what they need instead of just giving them what we think they need.
Yeah.
What advice would I give to young women today? My advice to them is it's going to be tough. You know, like athletes today, they don't start, they're not playing right away, or, you know, they're in the transfer portal. It's like, oh, excuse me, it's going to be tough. It's very, very hard. What we did and what other women have done and athletes have done, it's really hard. It takes a lot of hard work. And so I guess my advice is understand that and stay the course instead of, oh, I think I'll leave because I'm not playing or I'm not starting. Well, then get better, you know, and figure out how to do that. So
I think as my advice to young coaches is to understand you don't know what you don't know. You don't know everything, and that's okay. And that you need to listen to whoever you hire and who hires you, and understand what you bring to the table. And what you don't know, you learn. And that you're not going to make six figures. That you might be the third assistant. So don't take that, well, I'm only the third assistant, I'm not important. That's not true. You have a voice. You were hired, you have a voice. Give your opinion and be okay if your head coach doesn't agree with you. That's okay. And if you so aspire to be a head coach when you grow up, and I hope you never grow up because I never did, you work for at least 3 different people. And you learn from all those people, and you have your own philosophy. And then you go out, and when you move 6 inches over, understand you still don't know everything. Because now your decisions, you're making the decisions now. And you have to believe in what you're doing. But stay patient. Stay patient. And loyalty is the biggest quality that you can bring to a program and to your head coach.
You know, my view is don't be afraid to ask for assistance. And some people don't want to do that. They want to think they know it all, whether it's an administrator, whether it's a coach, whomever it is, in any profession. I mean, as a photographer, if you're interviewing people, if you work for a newspaper, find people that you can call and ask. Most people are willing to help young people in the profession, but sometimes you have to ask them. They don't want to. If I called you and I was, in your profession, I don't want you to think I'm criticizing you. My point would be, if you need any help, if you want any perspective, call. And I think young people need to ask sometimes. And so you need to meet people in your area that you can look face to face with. You can call them, you can text them. I get all that, but face to face, I think, is important. And just ask for what you need. And it's not a sign of weakness. I think asking is a sign of strength.
I think one of the things for coaches that I'd like to say is for everybody to know to coach within your own personality. You don't have to be like somebody else. You don't have to have a charismatic personality, and if you do, great, use that. But you don't have to have that. Use your own personality. And I think it's really important that you know your staff, you know their strengths and weaknesses. There's a lot of tests out there that you can do, personality tests. And I think know your student athletes and not just take the test once, check it off, box. I did that. No, spend a lot of time getting to know the student athletes and letting them get to know you so that maybe they won't jump to the portal quite as quickly. But it's a matter of that they really, you know each other and you both know you care. There's caring for each other on that type thing. And for the young athlete, it's like, work at it because it's not easy. It's not easy to be a coach. It's not easy to be a player. Life is not always easy. I was with the Olympics and everybody, I'm sure, thought there was the greatest thing ever and nothing was difficult. There were some days I was thinking, why am I doing this? But overall, it was an amazing experience. But every day, every second isn't going to be perfect. Whether you're an athlete, whether you're a student, whether you do what you do, whatever, every day is not going to be perfect, but stick with it and it'll come out on the top end.